happy Wednesday, everybody out there, our family and friends. We're hoping that you all are having a fantastic week. We have so much news to catch up on, and let me tell you, it has been a crazy month. Not only that, crazy weeks ahead. We have been running around with so many different things that have happened in the real estate market. And of course, the market is on fire. Everybody is selling. Everybody is buying. And the thing is that I feel like we're so caught up in the run. We're moving so quick and so fast that we're forgetting major important things within the transaction and the parties. So this podcast today is mostly going to focus on slowing down the pedal just a little, maybe a lot, taking a breather, and letting you guys know that we are going to be here with Mr. Andrew De La Rosa. He is one of the major importance when buying real estate and getting us through the transaction. So welcome, Andrew. We're so
what's up,
happy
buddy?
to
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and not only me but prosperous.
Yeah. So Andrew De La Rosa, I've been with him for many years. He's part of our team and our group. He's grown with us. He is our right hand with all of our clients. So we literally trust our clients with Andrew because there's a lot of good, interesting factors when it comes to buying real estate.
Very important piece that I think realtors, definitely buyers, sellers don't really understand the key component that the title companies play. But more importantly, having someone like yourself, along with Prosperous Title, that helps us day in and day out. Andrew, thank you so much for that. And we'll dive into some of the good stuff that often gets missed.
Yeah, that often gets missed. But first of all, Andrew, really quick, I met you years ago. Tell us where you were before, not before, right? Where you're at now, which is Prosperous Title. Who is Prosperous Title? A lot of people don't know who Prosperous Title is and how you began your new adventure.
Totally. So Prosperous is one of the newer title companies in El Paso. We've been open since October of 2018. We're in a brand new office. I consider it brand new. We've been in it for about a year off of Airway, in between Montana and Edgemere. So we're right in that little strip where the Chick-fil-A, everybody knows where Chick-fil-A is, Airway. Yes. There's a Whataburger, Great American. So we're right here. So we've been open for just about 2 years now. We're growing slowly but surely, little by little, especially with how hot the market is right now. We've seen a really flux of business on the refinance side. So that's really helped out. And then the resale market, of course, it's as hot as ever. So definitely, if you guys have any title questions, title needs, we get a lot of walk-ins, and we'll take the time to explain certain things to you guys if you have questions about title before you even get to the point where you're signing a contract. So if you just want to know what title is, stop in anytime. We've got 3 escrow officers here in the office, a bunch of assistants who are as knowledgeable as the escrow officers. So if you guys want to stop in at any time, I'm always down to talk title, sports, whatever, just to break up the day a little bit. Come and see us. So we're at 1300 Airway, Suite 108. And again, it's just right down the street from the Chick-fil-A on Airway.
That is super awesome. And of course, you've been doing a lot of you have a lot of our business for the reason being the questions and the communication. So I really encourage the people that are watching or that, end up watching this after the live. If you honestly do have true questions, email or call Andrew. He will get on it away. That's one thing in my business is communication in our business. And that's priority. So he is always there with the click of a button. Now, as we jump in, the reason why I feel like this podcast is super important is for a lot of the reasons. Buying real estate is the biggest investment in anybody's life that you're going to make. So when coming to the contract and agents, real estate agents that are behind the scenes, when writing up a contract, it has so much importance in between the lines that a lot of us have forgotten to go thoroughly through that contract. And in that special page 1 of where it begins to talk about delivering earnest money and to the title company, where can you tell us you fit into that when it comes to checking getting a title committed, checking liens, checking bankruptcies, checking, back taxes. What does all that entail, and how do you come into play when it comes to a, legally binding contract?
Right.
Sure. Usually a title company will come into play as soon as a contract is executed by both parties, right? So they come to an agreement, sales price, who's paying closing costs, all that good stuff. And then there's a portion on the contract that designates a title company and an escrow officer who's going to be working on it. So once that contract is executed, it's delivered to that escrow officer at the title company. And then on our end, once we have the fully executed contract, that's when we open up a file and we begin the search of property records. So that goes back years and years, right? So we track down who the first owner of the property was pretty much. And then what we do is we generate what's called a title commitment. A title commitment is just a promise to issue a title policy down the road once we're at closing. But the title commitment is going to list any issues that might be on the property: unpaid property taxes, probate issues, divorces, anything that you can think of that might be of an issue for a buyer who's purchasing a property. We're going to bring it to everybody's attention. We have to tell both sides, okay, you know what? We need to clear this, that, and the other up before we can get to closing. And if we don't, then we need to find a solution on how we can get there. So it's really a team effort when it comes to title. A lot of people think that it's the responsibility of the title company to clean up title, but it's not. It's a team effort. So we need help from the seller, sometimes the buyer, but mostly the seller in communicating with us. Hey, you know what? I have a very common name here in El Paso. Can you tell us if this judgment or lien belongs to you? And usually we do that by obtaining personal information, social, date of birth, driver's license numbers. So we can try to eliminate as much as possible. And there are times where we can't by the information they give us. So we have them sign affidavits saying, you know what, this doesn't belong to me. But ultimately, at the end of it, we're trying to clear title or get to a position where we can tell the lender, you know what, we're in a position to close. So that way we can get docs and get buyer and seller in here. Buyer can get keys and the seller can get paid out and move on to the next chapter.
Exactly. So when it comes to title insurance, though, what does that entail? A lot of us don't even, or many people maybe not know as far as like when it comes to buying or selling your real estate. What is the title insurance? Why are we having to pay for the title insurance, or we're assuring that the buyer gets that?
And really, title, like car insurance or any other type of insurance, is just a piece of paper, right? Telling you that you're clear of something. And the way I like to explain title insurance, it's backwards car insurance. So when you buy car insurance, you're paying for future accidents, right? To cover you, theft, things of that sort. With title insurance, you're going from the date of purchase back. So you're wanting to be sure that there are no issues that previous owners had against the property that you're inheriting, because not only are you getting the keys to the house, you're getting any issues that might be attached to it. So it might be 2 or 3 owners previous. If there was a mistake at that time, we'll catch it and we have to clean it up. So a lot of times it's cleaning up issues that happened in the past before you even thought about purchasing the house.
Exactly. So there's more to it. When you're purchasing the real estate, there is more to it. Some of the scenarios that we've seen, and of course, no names, nothing, right? Because this is just real life situations and scenarios. We have heard, people coming and knocking on the door later on and saying like, hey, listen, like this should be part of my house.
Totally. I'll give you a prime example of one, right? So we were dealing with the sale of a property, and the gentleman who was selling his house, he purchased the property from a contractor. It was halfway built. It was this really nice $400,000 or $500,000 home. The contractor who started the build couldn't finish it, right? He ran out of money or whatever. So the guy who eventually tried to sell it or sold it, he bought the property, bought him out, didn't go through a title company. So he finished this beautiful home, got a buyer, brought it to the title company. When we did our title search, we picked up a lien from a contractor who had done some work on that property prior to him purchasing it from that other owner. So what happened is, not only did he buy that unfinished house and finish it, he bought that lien that the other owner didn't pay his debt to. So we had to explain to him, you know what, in order to close this and insure it, we need to either get a release from that individual who's owed money, or we need to pay him out. And unfortunately, we had to pay out that previous person who wasn't paid because he didn't purchase it with title insurance. If he had gone through a title company, they would have found out that there was a lien against the property, and they would have had to have taken care of it at the time he purchased it. But eventually, he got to the point where he wanted to sell it, and unfortunately had to come out of his pocket for something that wasn't his responsibility. So that's something. And just like a normal resale, we have contractors that do work on properties all the time. And let's say they don't get paid. The way it works is you can file a lien against somebody with the county courthouse, and it tells the public, you know what, this person owes that person X amount of dollars. And it's public record. So when we search records, if there's a lien against the property, it's going to come up. And we have to clear up that lien, that judgment, whatever it is that's clouding title, we have to clean it up for the buyer. So whether that's negotiating with the creditor, whoever it may be, to lower the balance that's owed, or let's say you paid them off, but the creditor or that person never filed a release, we need to secure a release telling us, you know what, it's been paid and we have a release proving it, or we need to pay it off. So that's one of the most common situations we see. Unfortunately, we deal a lot with child support liens. So child support liens do come up a lot, unpaid credit cards. So a lot of times we have to get the payoff of what's owed, but there's always room for negotiation. So if you have a lien against you, don't be afraid to contact the creditor and say, you know what, can we work this down? It's better to get something than nothing in a lot of people's eyes.
Exactly. So if you are out there and you feel like, you would like to sell your home, but, you have XYZ lien, A lien, B lien, try to figure it out. Don't stop there. I mean, because usually you can settle with a lien holder, right? And get it paid down, like you said, or removed. But, it's good to ask the question on how to do that, because a lot of the time it has stopped the sale.
Yeah.
Because there is liens that are found on the property.
Totally.
To avoid all of that, Andrew, I mean, like, say for instance, me and Edgar represent the sellers. We do have the listing contract where it states hey, are you being honest with us that there are no liens?
Right.
You have nothing else on title.
Oh, we lost Andrew.
Let's
see if we can go ahead and get him back on here.
We're going to get him back on, guys. But, it is super important. So if you guys have any questions, comments right here so we can ask him. This has to do with everything that we're talking about today. So wills, probate, let's do it.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I lost you guys for a quick second. I don't know.
We did.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but
we're back though. What I was saying is get ahead of the game when we're listing a home. Or, I understand that we open up title and all that, and then the commitment gets sent to the agents. But I'll be honest with you, there's agents that just go, oh, title commitment, scroll up, and we never even read. What are agents supposed to be reading in that title commitment?
So really, the title commitment is an important piece of the process. So again, it tells you exactly what's going on with title. So it's broken down into schedules for you, or sections. First section is who the proposed buyer is, who the lender is going to be, and then it tells you who the vested owner is. So what you want to do is you want to see who the vested owner on the title commitment is, because you might have somebody who's wanting to sell a property, but they're not the vested owner, right? So if your contract has a name on it, but it doesn't match up with the vested owner on Schedule A of the commitment, right away, you know what? Is this a probate? Is this a divorce? How did you feel like you're in a situation to sell this property? You know what I mean? So they might be the rightful owner of the property, but a lot of times what happens is, like, for example, with divorces aren't public records. So if divorce takes place and somebody's awarded a property through a divorce, then we need copies of those divorce papers, the divorce decree. Probate, the same way. Individuals pass away, they leave a will. So that's one thing I always specify when I'm dealing with buyers is, that's probably going to be your next important purchase, is purchasing a will. You'd go to a real estate attorney. That way, if something was to happen to you, unfortunately, the unexpected happens, you want to have your family prepared So leaving a will is a good way to get them going in the right direction when you pass. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that when you pass with a will, a last will and testament, that's all you need to do. But there's still additional steps that need to take place. You need to go get it probated. So it needs to go to the probate courts in order to make it official. So a lot of times just look at the vested on Schedule A, and that'll tell you who the owner is. Schedule B, it tells you what we're taking exception to. So we can't always insure everything that's attached to a property. So for example, here in El Paso, there's a lawsuit between the Tiguas and the city or county of El Paso that's been going on since the early 90s. So automatically on every commitment you see here in El Paso, it has that language saying that we cannot insure that portion of the title. Okay. And then Schedule C tells you if there's any liens against the property as well. So you're going to see a lot of mortgages on Schedule C. If they have a mortgage, it's going to tell you the information from the time they purchased, which would be the deed of trust, the document that's recorded with county, which would be the deed of trust. We see a lot of child support liens. Any type of lien that you can think of is going to come up on Schedule C. And a lot of people kind of freak out when they see a long list of items on Schedule C. But like I said, there's a lot of common names here in El Paso. So we don't know if it's our person or not. So that's why so there, I don't know how many Joe Martinez are in El Paso. Sorry, Joe Martinez, but I don't know how many there are in El Paso. But I'm sure there's over 100, right? So that's why on our end, we like to communicate with the sellers as early as possible. I have a little packet that I send them, introduce myself, say this is who I am, and I need you to fill out some form for us. And it's going to have some personal info, social, date of birth, and they get it back to me. So that way, by the time our commitment is done, and usually our commitment turnaround time is about typically about 3 to 5 days, but because of so much business going on, it's taking a little longer, up to 10 days sometimes. We can use that information to clear up a lot of items ahead of time. So we can tell right away, you know what, this social doesn't match or this date of birth doesn't match. And then whatever else we can't clear up, like I said earlier, we use an affidavit. We have them come in and sign an affidavit and say, you know what, this lien doesn't belong to me. Because a lot of times we are taking people's word. You know what I mean? We have to trust them that it's not them. We have to do our due diligence to make sure with the creditor, hey, does this social match up with your social on record? So that's the commitment as a whole. Yeah, the commitment has a lot of information. So if you don't know how to read a commitment, again, if you want to meet up, sit down, we can go over it. But it has pretty much all the issues that you're going to see on title.
And, I know it gets a little boring, with the title commitments and surveys and, but it is our job and it is our due diligence to make sure that we are taking our time in every paragraph.
Totally. And I'll give you a little tip on our end. So what we do is when we send out the commitment, Valerie Carter's my assistant. She's awesome, guys. So if you ever need anything, give her a call. We like to specify in the body of the email when we send out the commitment, hey, you know what, title's clean, or we got to pay off a mortgage, or Schedule C because these items came up. Because a lot of times you're not going to open up that PDF, right? You're busy, you forget. But in the body of the email, we try to make your job a little easier and showing you, hey, you know what, read this email. We're telling you what you need to look out for. Just courtesy, you know what I mean? Just to make everybody's job a little easier.
And I think it's important too. I'm not going to talk about other title companies or anything like that, but I think that's the vital piece also, like with that Jackie and I enjoy a lot with Prosper Title, but more importantly with you, Andrew, there, because you're on top of that and you do communicate to both sides of the party to make this transaction go smooth. And we get it usually up front at the back end when everybody's getting ready to close and prepare moves and all that good stuff. It's right up front and say, hey, we got a little bit of a hurdle. It's communicated and it's worked out really well. So again, thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Honestly, I think communication, and we talked about this yesterday, is the most important part of the business, any business, right? Communicating. So we're all on the same team at the end of the day. The two realtors, the mortgage company, the insurance agent, we're on the same team. So the more we communicate with each other, I think the better the flow of the process is.
And it's funny. I want to touch on that a little bit because I know El Paso market right now is crazy, right? It's fire. Everybody's saying, we're selling and people are buying, and everybody gets caught up on the easier process of what we're seeing. Now on the back end, And we try to avoid this all from our clients, right? We want to tell them like, everything's going smooth, everything's going great, but then all of a sudden you're getting overloaded, right? So right now with COVID, and I want you to share, what's some of the stuff that you guys have had to encounter to kind of offset the madness, because it is crazy out there. And I know, we're not hiring new people or anything like that, right? So how are you guys dealing with that? And how do you like not make us lose our minds?
So as it is, real estate's a crazy business, right? So you have to stay on your toes. You have to be ahead of the game, step ahead of it. So especially with COVID going on right now, we've had to deal with customers who are afraid of leaving their home, right? So maybe they're out of town sellers, out of town buyers. We've had customers who are overseas. So what we do is we use a lot of communication to find out their situation ahead of time. That way, by the time we get ready to close, we have a couple plans ready, right? Because you just can't have plan A, because you always have to have plan B, because it's not always going to go down that way. So we try to stay a step ahead. And again, it falls on communication. Are you out of town? Are you in the military? Do we need to get a POA ready to go? Do we need to get our underwriter to do an e-signature or e-notary for you, a remote online notary? So as a company, I'll touch on that real quick. We're not licensed to do remote notaries. I'm not licensed to do them, but our underwriter is. So there's certain situations where we've had to contact our underwriter and have them notarize documents online, as long as the lender is okay with it. Because the signatures, again, are going to be electronic signatures.
There we go. Yeah, sorry about that little technical difficulties there.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
underwriting approves the mobile
Yes.
notary.
So once we get confirmation from the lender that we can use those e-signatures, we've had at least 1 or 2 closings that we've done in the office with a remote online notary. So pretty much you're sitting down like how we are right now, signing documents electronically, and we can close and fund that way. So,
Yeah.
but there's curveballs left and right that we have to be ready for. And like I said, it starts with communicating with the seller, with the buyer, finding out what their situation is going to be, talking to the realtors. A lot of times we deal with military, so usually that's the first question I ask them. Hey, are you going to be out on the field? Are you gonna be deployed? Are you plan on being in town? Do you have a POA in place already that we can use? So it's just a matter of getting that conversation going, so that way you're ready for the situation.
The POA that Andrew's talking about is the power of attorney. So, it helps the significant other or who's going to be signing the party for them, who's in charge. And this happened to us. This happened not once, it happened like twice, where he was on the field, he or she, and we had to get a POA and we had to wait. Well, this was actually with a new home, a different title company, and we literally had to wait 6 weeks.
Yeah, and it does happen sometimes, right? Where maybe they find out last minute or something like it does happen.
So we should have caught it. Yeah. So there's just little bumps in the road like that. So real estate isn't easy, guys. It isn't easy.
A lot of moving parts.
It's a lot of moving parts.
It's not $1 million listing, that's for sure, huh? It's not that easy.
Can't just turn on the show. One thing that I wanted to also touch on with the madness and being able to, a lot of activities going on in your guys' office, right? And it's same activities going on for the buyers. They don't know what's expected, little things like that. And where I'm going with it, just because we recently had a situation, right? And I wanted to touch up on a little bit that just like COVID's going on and a lot of good stuff's happening to our industry, there's always those bad guys out there, right? They're the hackers that come in and they do certain stuff. And one of our biggest pieces in our contract that we have, and I'll have Jackie touch up on it a little bit because this is something she's been warming up to kind of share, and just so that we can share what role you have, how we can prevent it, and then our role to help others not go through the same situation, because it is scary.
It is scary. So everybody needs to be careful, like not just in real estate, but everywhere in general. So I'm sure you guys get those calls that I've been blown up with, like, hey, we need your social, we need this, your social security, all kinds of things. Amazon there was a fraudulent call from me recently on Amazon. Thankfully, it seemed a little fishy to me. So I called, and sure enough, it was fraudulent activity, right? So I was able to nip that in the butt. But I've noticed an increase in it everywhere. And it's happening right before our eyes, where Edgar and I were listing a property. The buyer, another agent had the buyer the day of closing, or was it a couple of days before, Andrew?
It
The
was
buyer,
a few days before closing.
a few days before closing, she had wired a big lump sum of money thinking it was the title company.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, right, Andrew? It wasn't.
So yeah, to touch on that, so yeah, it's crazy. I got into business almost 10 years ago, and when I first got in, it wasn't really, you didn't hear about it, but I'd say like the past 5 or 6 years, it's really become an issue. And these guys are smart, right? They're cyber criminals, and they fish, right? They go fishing, so they're checking out emails, and a lot of times what happens is a lot of realtors or emails aren't secure. Okay, so they can hack emails really quick. So that's one thing we need to do is update our emails as much as possible. That's one way to kind of keep that from happening. And then the second thing is communication. So on my end, in this certain situation, I did not have communication with the buyer via email. I didn't even have her email at all. So what happened is she called me the day after she wired the funds, and she said, "I got your 4 emails." And I'm like, I didn't email you because I didn't have your email. So right away, I in my mind, I'm like, oh my God. And in this situation, she was bringing in a pretty good down payment. And a lot of these people, cyber criminals, they fish for these big amounts, right? They look for those big amounts. They're not looking for a couple thousand here and there. They want to make it worth their while. So long story short, she got 4 emails from a fictitious email that was posing as the title company, asked her to send the money by a certain time in order for her transaction to go smoothly. She did. She calls me the next day and asks me if I got the wire. And I said, I haven't sent you any instructions. So the first thing we do is we have her call the authorities, right? Put in a police report. And then the second thing is to call her bank and say, you know what, we need to try to get this money back. So fortunately, in this situation, again, I think it's because of communication. The bank that received the money, they noticed that the account that the money was going to go into did not match up with the title company name. Okay, so what happened is they held it, and they were able to refund or get the money back to the buyer. Unfortunately, it's not always a happy story, right?
Right.
So, but I think
what would have happened if the bank would have like just released it? We would have never seen that money again.
Yeah, I can't really tell you because I've never been a part of it, and I don't think I want to know what happens. But yeah, I mean, SOL, right? So the biggest thing is communication, and it starts with the realtors talking to their buyers, because most times it's going to happen with the buyer. When you have a buyer, especially who's coming in with a large sum of money, you need to tell them, you know what, any instructions you get from the title company, you need to call the title company, speak to somebody, more specifically the escrow officer, and confirm that those instructions are correct. Okay, because a title company, on my end, usually when we send out wiring instructions to a buyer, it's because they're out of town. I don't like to do it over email. I usually send it with our mobile notary in the physical packet, and then I instruct them in the packet, call me, so that way we can verify wiring instructions. So very rarely do we send instructions out via email, but you need to call either for sure the title company, and speak to the escrow officer who you're working with, so that way you can confirm those wiring instructions. And if that would have happened in this case, then we would have caught it and said, you know what, that doesn't match with what we have.
I'm so thankful and happy that this buyer was able to get her money back, because like you said, we would not even know what would have happened on the other side. She would have been lost out of all that money, a house, and all parties would have suffered.
Yeah, but I think, again, it just starts with her jumping on it. She did what she had to do. She called her local authorities, filed the FBI's involved. They're still investigating as to who tried to do this to her. You know what I mean? So it's an ongoing. I just spoke to her yesterday, and she's excited to come to El Paso. And she's like, you know what? I want to sit down and talk to you and thank you for the good job you did for helping me get through this. Because I mean, it's not something that I wouldn't want to wish that upon anybody. That's a lot of money that she sent out.
Absolutely.
She did. It was a lot of money. And I'm sorry, go.
No, and I think, and again, just to touch on her, obviously doesn't know you as well as we do and stuff like that, but just to see that kind of extra work that you put into it to help her, get into the authorities, following those processes is very important because I mean, I'm not saying that other title companies or escrow officers would go above and beyond, but it almost comes like, well, I didn't do it. I'm sorry, ma'am. You did what you did, and go handle it on your own, kind of deal. And again, just to touch on why we continue to find our way to have you be a part of all our closings is for those reasons. It's just above and beyond. You're always looking at it. You communicate it. You tell me what's a really red hot fire alert. Hey, let your seller know this is happening.
Red flag.
Or it's not. And we work on the back end to try to make it work. But it's always that communication. Because it's not an easy conversation to tell a seller, hey, you know what, we're not going to close because this happened, and because of that, you're not moving. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. So thank you again for all of that, Andrew, and again, crazy experiences, and we've had our fair share. We've seen a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And, we've had some cool stories.
Yeah, no, we could write a pretty good book, huh? If we sit down. Yeah, but I think if we could all just put ourselves in that buyer situation, this is their first time purchase. I mean, we close countless deals a month, a year, so we kind of lose that feeling of what they're going through, right? We kind of get desensitized into it and the excitement they're feeling, and it's just a normal day for us, but it's not a normal day for them or the sellers, right? So we need to put ourselves in their situations and say, you know what, how would we want to be treated if I was making my first purchase or if I was selling my first home? I mean, you want to have that excellent customer service. I want to leave these people with a great taste in their mouth. So I kind of compare myself to a referee, like a sports referee, right? Like an umpire. I played baseball, so an umpire, right? If an umpire did an amazing job, have no idea his name or who he is. But as soon as he messes up, you know exactly who he is. So my job is to kind of stay in the shadows when it comes to that. So that way it's smooth and everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's all teamwork, guys. And I just feel like, the reason for the podcast was this, and because, the forms, like I was stating before, if you're purchasing, guys, on our end, Andrew has his forms, we have our forms. This we should be going very detailed. Every document I tell Edgar and our team all the time. Take your time with your buyers and your sellers and sit down and go over every form with them and why it's important. Because this wire fraud explains in detail, sentence to sentence, criminals are targeting real estate transactions from the very beginning. So as soon as we hit an electronic and everybody signs and it's executed, they already can have like you said, it's not secured or emails. They're already in the mix of it. So if we just warn them a little bit, with this wire fraud instruction, everybody will have a smooth transaction. And I think that's what I just wanted to do, was hit on point with that today.
Totally.
Yeah,
I'm taking the show from Edgar.
Yeah, I tell you, I told Jackie, now that we got some title out of the way, one of the coolest things that when I go and whether it's picking up any paperwork that we need there from the title company, she'll be like, get off and get this. I'm like, okay. And she goes, but don't sit there for minutes. And it's so funny because it's always like, no, it's going to be in and out, this and that. And then all of a sudden.
He leaves me in the car, Andrew. Like, who does that? And you guys are like talking about sports for like 45 minutes. I should just go to Tin Man next time.
The other day, about a couple months ago, I stopped by your office. Edgar was there by himself to drop off a check. And we were having a luncheon here at the office, and I was responsible for the sodas. And I said, okay, I'm going to go drop off the check real quick with Edgar and come back and buy the sodas and be back for the luncheon. Everybody was upset with me because I got back like an hour late after the luncheon because we were talking sports for a while.
Edgar. Forget it.
So that being said, I know you're a big Ranger fan. Yankees are in it, right? Playoffs?
Yeah.
What are your odds there? Do you guys like your chances? What is it?
You know what? I like the Yankees. I'm more of a baseball fan. I like the young, hungry teams. So there's a couple of young, hungry teams coming. The White Sox in the American League and the Padres in the National League. So they've got some young players who have a lot of character, and I think it's good for the game because baseball is kind of like your grandpa's game. You know what I mean? And it's good to see some young kids bringing some flair and some attitude, and it's cool to see. So I think with the way COVID's going, it's changing everything, especially for sports. So The playoffs
Yeah.
are pretty cool because there's more teams involved, and like the NCAA tournament, if one team gets hot, I mean, anybody can win it. So it's cool to see that it's it's different, if anything. So that's a good thing.
Okay, I'm not gonna let you off the hook, man. So Sunday, we all know you're a beloved Cowboy fan, and I won't hold that. I still love you for it, Andrew. Trust me. But,
You're gonna hurt a lot of Cowboy fans out here.
But give me the real. I mean, how upset were you? Were you not upset? You're a big believer. We knew it. How's it going down?
I think there's a lot of different Cowboy fans, and we're all great. But I think I'm a realist, and I think the culture needs to change. I mean, it just starts from the top, and when you get used to being mediocre, because that's what the Cowboys have been for like the past 25 years after they won their last Super Bowl, is mediocre. And it just gets tired, right? And I almost became a Raider fan, I think, on Sunday if they hadn't made that field goal. So, I mean, it was a crazy game.
Warriors and my 49ers, but I mean,
I think it's anytime you talk about the Cowboys, the screens just go off. And sorry about that.
But the thing is, they always give you a heart attack, whether it's a win or a loss. It's like I have had like I don't know how many heart attacks watching them play. They can just never win it a nice, clean, easy game. It's always interesting. That's why they're America's team, I guess, because they always make it interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know.
It was fun to watch.
I don't know the feeling, but it was definitely. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, Atlanta does it again. The kings of collapse.
I think the MVP goes to the special teams coach, because did you see that onside kick? I mean, yeah. I've never seen a kick like that before, and it worked to perfection. I don't think they could do it again, but that time it worked.
Yeah. But like I said, I didn't want to make it into sports, but that's the only way that I can get some on-screen time to talk about it. So. And a better guy for it, dude. And I said,
I talk real estate, he talks sports.
The best of both worlds right here.
The best part is that you have good knowledge and it's all around. You know what I mean? And that's what I love. Like those that just watch ESPN or whatever and want to give you the highlight information. And I appreciate that. And
totally.
So, once this whole COVID is over, I'm hoping to maybe put a contracts class together. Maybe we could have some lunch and just maybe, dissect the contract a little bit more. And we're going to be more than happy to invite you over to explain that part again, because this is you. This is what you love. So we should know the ins and outs.
Definitely.
Right? Thank you, Andrew, for
your time. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on our podcast. And have a blessed week and close those deals.
Make it happen, right? Thanks, guys.
No, thank you, Andrew. Have a blessed one, my man. And again, guys, do not forget Andrew De La Rosa, Prosperous Title. They're off of Airway. Give him a call. And he's absolutely amazing at what he does. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Andrew. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.